All right, folks, good morning. Good morning. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. And we are live streaming, by the way, so anybody watching that, seeing us at the last minute, Shane, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Missed you yesterday, sir.
Yeah, I'm here today, so we'll make up for it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Cold. It was a good day to sleep in yesterday.
Yes.
Stay in a warm bed, I'm sure, right?
I was happy to get up and get out in the cold yesterday. It was very cold.
I gotta tell you, that's fantastic. All right, folks, I'm going to have a lot to talk about today. And one thing is that yesterday, if you happen to catch the show, in hour two, right, I had High Sheriff Thomas Hodgson. You're familiar with him, right? I'm sure he's been on the station a few times. He's been on my show before, I think Gary's show. He is probably, well, no question about it, he's an outspoken sheriff, right?
For sure.
And also, he has kind of become an expert on immigration and even security, border security. He's spoken to Congress. He has advised on the president's campaign. So he's been around. And he joined us yesterday, and we talked about it. And this was actually great timing because ICE just announced that they will be augmenting the ICE officers with officers from the Border Patrol, and I think another agency too. So the point is, you have cities around the country who either have gone so far as to claim to be sanctuary cities, which of course means nothing officially. A city, a mayor or a governor can't say, I'm going to ignore and defy federal law and become a sanctuary city. There's no such status. You can self-proclaim it, but it's not recognized by the government, if you understand what I'm saying. So these these cities and these states that do this are then saying to illegal aliens, you have a haven, come here. Well, naturally, the Trump administration said, well, thank you, because now we know where they're all going to go. So we're going to send extra ICE agents there, because you can't do that. There's no such thing as being protected as a sanctuary city because you said so. It's really quite ridiculous if you think about it for a moment. So, of course, the criticism's going to come. But remember now, if we go back and not too far, remember, Shane, when the president said, okay, because the court ruled that you can't hold these people in excess of so many days, all right, we got to release them. It was the catch and release that was the big thing. So the president said, fine, we'll put them on buses and we'll bus them to L.A. and Portland and all Seattle and all these cities that say this is great, let's have open borders. And what did they do? No, you can't do that. Even Cher, right? Cher, one of the elite Hollywood in the bubble types, tweeted out and said, no, don't do that. That's not fair. We can't take them. We can't handle it. We can't handle the problems. We can't handle the homeless that we already have. So what does that tell you? So the sheriff had a lot to say about that, as well as just the whole overall situation. So I thought what we'd do is play some of that from yesterday. So I'm going to sit back while we play the sheriff's interview yesterday. And so obviously I won't take any calls while that's on, because you will hear phone calls, but they're all pre-recorded. So I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show, and here is the interview with High Sheriff Thomas Hodgson from Bristol County. So first, let me invite into the conversation High Sheriff of Bristol County, Thomas Hodgkins. Sheriff, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, man. And let's tell people that you are the High Sheriff of Bristol County, and that is in the kind of the southern part of Massachusetts. And how many years now, Sheriff, have you been there?
I've been the sheriff for 22 years here in Bristol County, which is the southeast quadrant of the state.
Fantastic. And pretty much you have become well known as an expert on immigration. And I was saying in hour one, and tell me if I was hitting it on, that as a sheriff, you're in a unique position because you deal with those that have been arrested And if they're in your custody, it doesn't necessarily mean they've been found guilty yet. They may not have been sentenced to 2.5 years or less, but they're awaiting trial. So you're on the ground and you're dealing with people who are facing a jury and a judge very soon, who are in the justice system as we're talking. And so you see who's being arrested. You see who they are, where they come from, what they're being arrested for, what they're charged with, and that kind of thing. And I think that gives you a very unique perspective. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the whole issue around what's going on and the undermining of the rule of law here. Thank God for President Trump, I'll tell you, because what essentially happened, we have these elected officials who decided that they wanted to pick and choose what laws are going to be followed, and basically under these new policies that they've tried to establish, the Sanctuaries and Trust Act and all of these things, they basically said, look, I know the community would be safer if you continue to cooperate with your federal partners, but I don't want the community to be safe because my political agenda is more important. You people in the community that elected me, that represent you, be safe. Well, you're just going to be less safe than you otherwise could be because, as I say, the political agenda trumps no pun intended, but trumps the safety of the people of the community. And so when we have people come into our prisons, that's the safest way, first of all, for us when we identify, or I identify somebody that is in the country illegally, there's a determination made at that point whether or not they should be held for federal hearings for deportation. And rather than allowing the person right back out into the community when we know they've been arrested for a crime, could be serious crime, they're right back out in the community. And they're of course, victimizing more and more people, pushing more and more drugs, causing more and more overdoses. And I don't know if you know this, Joe, but the listeners know this or not, but Massachusetts is the second most common place in the United States to find fentanyl. And between 2007 and 2017, according to a recent a Pew Research report that came out about 3 months ago, they determined that Massachusetts had the highest migration of illegal immigrants for that 10-year period than any other state in the United States. We're 2,300 miles from the border.
Well, first of all, that's it's fascinating to learn that. I mean, I've been led to believe that for some reason Quincy has become some kind of hub or passway through coming up the coast. I don't know if there's accuracy to that, but that Massachusetts, obviously being a coastal state, would deal with the pipeline part of it.
Well, more of it, Joe, though, has to do with, if you look at the maps now, they've done the maps that show that the cartel's routes across the United States start from the southern border, they go right through the sanctuary cities, because that's the place they can lay low. And this is
because their own governors and mayors have broadcast to them, we got your back. Come on in. We got your back.
Joe regularly tells our audience, Sheriff, that once someone comes into the country illegally, then they're on a chain of illegal acts in order to stay here.
Yeah. And in other words, right, Sheriff, I mean, you broke the law to come in order to continue to survive in this country after you've illegally entered. Do you not have to continue to break multiple laws every day because you need to have a fictitious identity? You need to steal an identity, rent a Social Security number from a Puerto Rican citizen, or so. In other words, you can't. It's just not an isolated crime. It's a series, conspiracy of crimes to be here illegally.
Well, of course. And we've heard them talk about driver's license and other things, and they claim that one of the reasons is because they'll buy insurance. Well, if these people don't have jobs, they may get it for 1 month, but how are they going to sustain that car insurance for when they don't have jobs and so forth? We know all the fraud that's going on. We know the human trafficking and sex trafficking are out of control because these people, the cartels, for example, are well into our country. And I've been to the border 4 times. I could assure you, and what you just said, Joe, is very important. Down on the border, you will hear all the agents talk about the fact that they know within a day's time which new community is now established as a sanctuary place. Because think about this: for how many decades has law enforcement been asking the citizens of our country, the law-abiding, get involved, let us be our eyes and ears, help us keep the community safe, things that are legal in the community, let us know about it. Now we've evolved with these elected officials who are trying to create sanctuaries and so forth, basically saying, you law-abiding people have been working with law enforcement, you need to go into the shadows and be quiet. And you need to let the people who are in the shadows hiding, who are here knowingly, illegally, come out of the shadows with a protective bubble and wander around your neighborhoods. You need to leave alone. And that is completely flipping neighborhood watch on its head and saying the law-abiding people can no longer cooperate. In California, the Attorney General said, he made a public statement that any business owner, now think about this, any business owner who attempts to notify ICE that they have someone that's here illegally will be prosecuted.
That's ludicrous, first of all. And prosecuted for what?
For violating the Trust Act.
I'm sorry, you died out for a second. Violating?
The Trust Act, the Sanctuary Trust Act, which
okay, so that brings me to the question is, how does one become a sanctuary city? I mean, is there a declaration, or do they just announce it? Because how can a city thumb their nose at federal law and just simply say we're not going to recognize, much less enforce, the laws we don't care for?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the answer is very simple. They can't. Under Title 8, 1324, the federal law, it clearly states that anyone who attempts to harbor or conceal someone they know to be in the country illegally is guilty of a felony under federal law. And that's why people should be jumping up and down cheering for this president who has from day one, before he even got in office, when he was speaking at the convention to accept his nomination for the Republican Party, he said, when I set foot into that White House on my first day, I'm going to begin to reinstate the rule of law in this country. And now he's just announced, as you know, that they are now taking border agents from the border because they've started to secure it. And they're going to start coming into the communities, Boston being one, where these people like Marty Walsh and Mayor Curtatone, who said, you know what, we're going to be a friend. They use this term friendly, welcoming community because they used to be sanctuary community. They knew that was a negative connotation. And if you ever notice, they never use the term illegal when they're referring to people. They always use the term immigrant.
Right.
So when they parse their words, they do it because they know what they're doing is wrong, but they want to make it seem like it's okay.
Yeah.
But we know better, and the president knows better, that the rule of law has to matter. So what they do in, like, for example, Massachusetts, they have, as you probably know, Joe, it's recently tried to file this bill, this legislation that would make Massachusetts a sanctuary state. So they're still in violation of federal law because the supremacy clause states that federal law, supersedes state law. So that's why the president, I think, feels very comfortable taking these steps on behalf of the citizens and the legal residents. People come here the right way to protect them, to make sure the laws support them.
Well, there's a lot to digest here because, first of all, I want to just point out on the border, you're saying ICE is going to be reassigned to cities, and I think part of that is that the border security, border wall, or the border rather, has been secured a little bit. But interesting enough, isn't it because of the cooperation with the Mexican government, who has come around a little bit and because, and some of it has a lot to do, because if you notice when the USMCA was signed, it was the very next day that they sent their militia and their military along the routes to tell other countries that you're not going to use Mexico as a corridor to America anymore. So would we have as much success on the border today if it wasn't for the 180 in Mexico's cooperation?
No, we would not. But it also, what this speaks to again is the talents of this president to know how to negotiate from a position of strength, and he's masterful at it. And that's why we're seeing less and less people come. The Mexican military are standing down, making sure that these people can't get through from the neighboring countries that are trying to get into Mexico, and they're making sure they can't eventually get into the United States. They're being held back, even in the neighboring countries, from getting into Mexico. So this is really, when you think about it, in the face of all the resistance that the president has had from the beginning, when they tried to attack him for securing the border, which we've been asking for decades. I've been working on immigration reform for almost 22 years. And if anybody's frustrated with the fact that Congress has used this for a political football and done nothing on immigration reform, sensible immigration reform, E-Verify, and all the other things we need, it's me. But I didn't decide to go out and hey, they're not doing it, so let's violate the law. The president, for example, has looked at this and he's frustrated, but he's figured out ways to do it in spite of them.
Well, Sheriff, what's frustrating, right? Because what you just said, this isn't, you've been doing this for 20 some odd years, sounding the alarm and so forth. And what's frustrating for me, for a guy that's been doing this for 30 plus years, and I've done it on this show, I have played the audio from Obama, Clinton, saying the words, Obama, do not send, if you come here illegally, you'll be sent back. Do not send your children. That these children that are coming, we find aren't even actually related. We've got Bill Clinton talking about increasing the number of border agents and securing the wall. In other words, everything that has been said 10 years ago, 15 years ago by previous presidents, administrations, are what Trump is saying, but because they're coming out of Donald J. Trump's mouth, they lose their minds. What changed? Is it just the animosity towards Trump that makes it? Because they're on record as saying we got to have Border Patrol. We're going to increase the funding for security. We're going to build sections of the wall. It's not like the Democrats and that these people have been against this forever and ever. It's just now they are. All Trump has ever done, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is say what the law is, say that we're going to actually enforce the laws that we already have. To my knowledge, he hasn't really asked for any new laws, just pay attention to the ones that already exist.
Well, to answer your question, actually, sadly, nothing's changed. I've been dealing with Congress. I've testified before Congress for these past 20 years. And the reason I say nothing's changed is because it depends on what the political atmosphere is. Right now, the Democrats have accomplished nothing in 3 years. They want more people to come in to try to affect the elections because they have nothing to show for what they've done for 3 years other than just constantly be obstructionist. And this is about votes. In the end, it's about votes. And so, 10 years ago, it would have been about, remember the Gang of Eight? That was the most outrageous. Both Democrats and I've often referred to Congress, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but it's the best analogy. It's like the two members of the families of the mob. You got the Patriotas and the Gambinos. They're constantly fighting with each other until somebody steps in, like law enforcement, and starts to figure things out. And then suddenly they become one family, and they stick together. And that's what's kind of going on. This is back and forth in Congress. It's never really been about the people, and that's the sad part. Years ago, decades ago, they turned the legislative branch of the federal government into a political playground. And frankly, on both sides, over the course of time, particularly around this issue, they wanted to see depending which election was coming up, who could make the other party look weaker in front of the immigrant community. And they would take the positions of, hey, these are your family members, they should be able to come in because it was going to be votes. So that's what's going on. But the president knows that. He figured it out before he even got in, said I'm going to drain the swamp. He knew about the nonsense, and he's been taking the right actions on behalf of the people trying to straighten it out in spite of Congress.
Sheriff, do you want to take a phone call or two? We got people clamoring to get on here. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Online is High Sheriff Thomas Hodgson from Bristol County, clearly an expert on immigration and has been a proponent of border security and of course, just the immigration issue. Let's go to Mark in Worcester. Good morning, Mark. You're on with the High Sheriff.
Good morning, Sheriff. Thank you for fighting the good fight. You're one of the few that is. And I also want to say this. This is so blatantly obvious to me. This is not going to change until you have a proactive U.S. Attorney General and U.S. Justice Department attorneys who are willing to issue cease and desist orders to the mayors of these towns and cities who, in violation of federal laws and statutes, harbor illegal aliens. You have to issue them cease and desist orders, or they'll be subject to arrest. Until you have an Attorney General who is willing to do this, this is not going to stop.
Mark, that's a great question. And Sheriff, we saw that the judge here in Massachusetts that assisted that illegal immigrant to get out the back door of the courthouse actually got arrested. Are we going to see that, more of that?
Well, it's funny to call it, Mark. Thanks for your question, but it's a great one. I actually, believe it or not, several years ago, when Attorney General Sessions was in the administration, I actually was down before Congress, and Congressman King asked me when I was testifying. He said, "Sheriff, what should be done to these mayors, people that are creating these sanctuaries, so forth? What should be done with those people?" And I said, "There's only one thing you can do, Congressman: issue arrest warrants on every one of them." And the reason is because they are knowingly in violation of federal law, thumbing their nose at the law and saying, "I'll decide what laws will be followed as a mayor or as a city council, whatever, whoever's making that decision." And I actually was speaking with Attorney General Sessions in Washington, and I said, until someone or some elected officials are arrested for violating this, we're going to see this broaden out. Once the arrest happens, you're going to suddenly see the sanctuary cities are no longer popular anymore. But why shouldn't we need to hold, particularly people who took an oath?
Exactly. And if we don't arrest these people, Sheriff, aren't we sending the message that you can pick and choose which laws to follow? And isn't it pretty much a requirement, a necessity for the integrity of the justice system that they do have warrants issued and they are arrested because they are blatantly ignoring the law and not only ignoring it, but they're publicizing it and they're making political hay out of it?
Yeah, and I think that obviously President Trump and the administration get that, and that's why they're coming into these sanctuaries and they're sending a clear message to these mayors: you are not going to violate these laws. We're not going to stand down and we're going to let you just sort of run over federal law. We're coming in. We're going to enforce it, and ultimately they will be, I think, accountable if they continue to try to, push it back in the face of the federal government, because it's they're enforcing the laws and they're going to do it one way or the other. Yeah. And the people, the communities want to be safe.
Absolutely. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. We're speaking with High Sheriff Thomas Hodgson of Bristol County. David, thank you for your call. You're on with the High Sheriff.
Hello, good morning, Sheriff. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing. I was at the State House. I saw you. I believe you were at the State House, correct?
Yes, I was.
Licensing bill?
Yes.
Yes, thanks for doing that. And morning, Joe.
Good morning.
My question to the Sheriff is, when we stop a person who's speeding or something happens on the road, and a police officer in the state of Massachusetts stops a person, whether it be a local or state police officer, and the person does not have a driver's license that gives the police officer a passport, what's inside the police officer's car? Is there any database that they can look at to determine if the person has a criminal record in the home country? For example, if someone's here from Brazil or Mexico and they had a criminal past, but they child molestation, can the police officer see that on any kind of computer that's inside?
No, they would not have that access in their computer. But what I would tell you is, and you raise a great point, this idea of giving driver's licenses to people who are here illegally is again another setback for us in our efforts to keep people safe. It makes us have less tools than we otherwise would have had, because if we stop you and you don't have a driver's license, you're going to be arrested. And the fact of the matter is that once that happens, then you can begin the queries about, okay, maybe you have to ask some questions and so forth, and then you get in touch with ICE, for example, that person you believe is not here illegally, and you give them the name. They can run their databases to find out who in fact this person is. And I would tell you, this is really important for listeners to know. In Puerto Rico, for example, there's
at least 4 rocket
provinces, or like states, for the sake of the argument. If you live in Puerto Rico, you can go to each one of those territories, and you can, or states, and you can get in 1 year's time up to 3 copies of your original birth certificate from each one of those states during that year. So what's happening is, I live there, I go get 200 of my original birth certificates. I start selling them to the Dominican cartels and people like that. I tell them, don't go to Massachusetts. I already sold one to somebody there. So they're coming here with these original birth certificates and using them to create these what looks to be legitimate IDs, and so we have a serious problem with identity fraud going on all over this country, and it's costing millions upon millions of dollars to the taxpayer in the fraud that's going on.
Yeah. I've been told by people, Sheriff, that Puerto Rican citizens actually rent their IDs, right? So they rent the ID, and then these people coming from, say, Guatemala, El Salvador, what have you, they're still, even though it's very lightened, they're still very intimidated, right? They still know that what they're doing is wrong. And then these Puerto Rican citizens, because they are citizens of the United States, they're renting this to them, and then they have to come back to see them say they want to buy a car. So they got to use them to buy a car. So this is a constant source of revenue for some citizens who are doing this whole scam that's happening. And the tools that you need for this, can it not be all kind of connected? I mean, they are Puerto Rico is a territory. Can't these systems? And I didn't know that. That's very interesting about how many copies of the birth certificate that you can get.
Yes.
And then they come. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, we are working with Puerto Rico. With our law enforcement people have been. We've made some inroads there where they're actually trying to cooperate with us to try to identify people, which is some bit of an advancement, but we still have more to do.
Yeah.
But it's a serious problem. I mean, the ability to be able to have these cartels coming in, MS-13. We know when I was on the border last, the head of the chief of the sector down in McAllen, where I was, at the processing station, said to me, "Sheriff, you do know that the word down here at the Mexican border is get up to Massachusetts, because that's where they can lay claim the MS-13 gang. They want to claim this northeast area, and we're seeing it. Remember the raids in March and all that, and they use these different IDs to get up here. Once they're here, they're settling in, and they're creating.
And we see people get arrested here, Sheriff, right? And they have 13, 14 EBT cards on them, multiple IDs and that kind of nature. But can you hold on? We have to. We're over. We have to take a break, and we'll come back on the other side. David, thank you very much for the call, folks. We'll take a quick break, a real short handling change right here. We'll be back with the High Sheriff of Bristol County, Thomas Hodgson. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and this is the Joe Mangiacotti Show.
This is Wes Oliver with Prestige Home Mortgage for Handling Change. Join us for Handling Change today at 7:30 or on the web at handlingchange.info.
Good morning and welcome to Handling Change from the Candiani Insurance Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and Wes Oliver of Prestige Home Mortgage joins us this week. The purchase or sale of your home or investment property could be one of the largest investments you have, and Wes can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Wes.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's our pleasure, of course. For you, thinking about veterans and looking out after veterans, especially with the mortgage front, that's something you do all year long. But what is going on right now for the veterans? You were talking off air a little bit about something you're doing special for them.
So what we're doing is we have a separate branch of the company called Veterans Home Loans, and our goal with that is to really help the local veterans. We just find a lot of the bigger organizations out there that they're definitely not local, don't really take care of the veterans as much as they might think. So we have the ability to have them come meet us in person, sit down face to face, go over terms and talk to them. We're offering free appraisals for any veterans, up to $750. So that would be for a single family home, or if they were purchasing a multifamily home, that would be on us just to give back a little bit to those who've given so much for us.
Let me ask you something. Does everybody do VA loans?
No. So one of the common things that people think is I'll just go to my bank, and the reality is that most banks in the area, they just don't do VA mortgages at all for God knows what reason, but I think they think they're a little bit more complicated, whereas we really are experts with that. And other places who say they do VA loans, and they may have local banks that do them, they might do a couple a year. So their experience level in handling those, because there are a little bit added complexities with those products, but knowing how to handle them, they typically don't handle them as well as somebody who does these things all the time.
Do you find, as the originator of a VA loan, that the veterans that you deal with are a little different kind of clientele? Are they different than your typical person looking for a mortgage when you're dealing with the vets?
I would say they can be, just because it's a fraternity type mentality, whether they were in the Army, Air Force, National Guard, whatever branch of the military that people were in, is there's that trust factor in knowing that, hey, somebody knows how to deal with the veterans. They have a common bond amongst them all.
Why is this so important to you?
It's really important to me. My dad's a Navy vet. He served in Vietnam. I just want to be able to give back to those folks who've given so much for us and our freedoms and those types of things. And I just really feel like it's an underserved community. It's a community of amazing people who, in some instances I mentioned previously, I just feel like they get taken advantage of sometimes, or they can't go talk to somebody. And you hear that with VA hospitals and healthcare, and that's a whole other topic.
Sure.
But I guess from my side of things in the lending financing world is I want to be able to give back and give some fantastic service to those people because they've given so much to us.
So you're offering more than or better than the other guys out there that do VAs. And are there a lot, though, here in New England? Easy to find a VA mortgage guy?
You can search on the internet, and most of the time you're going to find is some of the bigger, larger national companies that are out there that spend millions of dollars in advertising to target those veterans. And the reality of that is that comes at a cost. It actually comes at a cost to the veterans, because you're spending millions of dollars, whether it's TV advertising advertising on the Super Bowl or those types of things, that money comes from somewhere, and that money comes in the form of higher costs for that veteran and higher interest rates for that veteran as well. So
a veteran is definitely getting a better service with your VA mortgage company because they get to see you face to face, right? I mean, they get to come in and see Wes Oliver in your office and talk to you, look you in the eyes and talk to you. And as far as the service provided, where it comes to the fees, are they going to do better with you than they are with these national companies? Because you're saying they're going to pass that expense on.
Exactly. So you look at any large company who's spending that kind of money in advertising and said it comes at a cost. We're a small independent local company. I don't have to make the same margins as those folks do to pay for all that. So I want to be able to give that veteran an amazing experience and make sure that they're taken care of at a very, very, very low price. So I don't want to jeopardize, hey, you're the cheapest person in the world at doing this stuff and the service is going to be terrible, because oftentimes you get what you pay for, right? But we're looking at this combination of experts at doing VA loans and doing them at a cheaper cost than some of the big national companies, and they can come see us face-to-face, Joe.
That's fantastic. So let's remind folks right now, for the VA loans, the appraisal will be taken care of.
The appraisal will be taken care of by us.
All right. And how do they reach you directly for the VA programs?
They can reach us at 508-332-4171. That's a call or text number. Or you can reach us at veteranshomeloans.com. That is our website specifically for the vets.
All right, Wes. Thanks for joining us for today's edition of Handle and Change.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, folks, and thank you for joining us for Handle and Change from the Cantiani Insurance Studios. And join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life. Visit us at handleandchange.info. You can find Wes on Facebook at Prestige Home Mortgage or email at woliver@prestigemortgage.com. And you can always call 508-366-4006. For Wes, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. Don't forget, we're live streaming on the TuneIn app as well. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Online with me is Bristol County High Sheriff Thomas Hodgson, who is, without a doubt, considered one of the foremost experts on immigration and the problems that come with it. And this is great timing because the Trump administration is going to send Border Patrol agents to these sanctuary cities around the country, including Boston. All right, and Homeland Security said that this extra personnel will help ICE agents with the immigration enforcement. And we know that they need it because not only do they need bodies, but we have judges sending illegal immigrants out the back door with the help of bailiffs. We have these mayors making self-proclaimed sanctuary cities, and everybody's wondering, well, scratching their head, on whose authority can you do that? And so we have all of this going on, and now I look at the media, Sheriff, right, and you see certain publications and online stuff coming out with SWAT-like is coming to Boston. I mean, trying to twist this into something. And from what I understand is, hey, some of the Border Patrol agents serve on the SWAT part of the border, or what their equivalents of it. But isn't it funny how the media is trying to kind of scare and make this like it's some kind of jackboot situation going on, when all it is enforcing the laws and giving the department, ICE, the help they need.
Well, that's exactly right. And the thing is, Joe, when you think about this, actually, the people who, if those people who are saying that really believe it, then they need to tell these mayors, why are you putting us in this situation if you really believed it? But as you know, look, the fact that they've made it difficult for ICE to transfer someone that's in our custody directly to ICE without letting them back out in the community and taking the chance that they're going to commit a crime against somebody else, which often happens. When they do that, and they don't allow for us to do that simple transfer and allow people to get back in the community, they raise the risks of people living in neighborhoods where ICE has to now go and try to confront that person, either at some business or home, and take the chance that there's some kind of a potential shootout or somebody gets shot, some innocent person gets shot, and you have people coming into your neighborhood, law enforcement, that otherwise wouldn't have had to do that in a much more high-risk situation than having a controlled transfer based on the rule of law. So this is why it's so dangerous for these elected officials, the mayor of Boston, the mayor of Daytona up in Somerville, and others who just are thumbing their nose at the federal law and putting people at risk when they were sworn to do what we do, which is provide the most fundamental service in government, which is keeping people safe.
Sheriff, has anyone ever told you, as Sheriff of Bristol County, do not contact ICE? Do not turn an inmate over to ICE?
Well, we have protesters here I'm a 287G sheriff's office. So I signed up for that. In fact, I tried to get it when Barack Obama was in. They canceled the program. I actually built an immigration detention facility without any state money on my complex in Dartmouth, where I house about 200 people who are here illegally on average. We have protesters and people that have come to our place. They blocked our driveway and all of that, protesting the fact that we're enforcing the immigration laws and cooperating with ICE. And by the way, let me just hit something on this about Joe. I think it's really important. I think most people, everybody remembers 9/11, of course. But one of the most important things that we in law enforcement recognized and the federal government recognized with all their agencies, we needed to do a better job sharing information, collaborating in our operations and things, if we were really going to maximize our potential to keep the people of our country safe. And so why this time, when we know that we're seeing more and more crime, thousands of people are being killed each year by criminally legal aliens, why would we be saying that we want less cooperation? We want to obstruct the cooperation between agencies who are maximizing the potential for people to be safe.
It's absolutely crazy. And yes, I mean, 9/11 did point out, right, just how much there was a lack of communication between agencies, and then there were steps to actually fix that. And now you have the ability, you get somebody on here, and they don't want you not only not to communicate, but actually hold them and send it off. I had no idea. So you actually built on your Dartmouth facility an area to detain people who are here illegally. That's the purpose of that?
I built a separate building on our complex that just houses, and we're actually one of the models for the nation.
See, that's fantastic. I mean, ICE has got to love that. It just streamlines the process so much. So one more thing. Let me ask you about it goes back to the power of the purse here, because President Trump said this about immigration cities that or self-proclaimed sanctuary states. That's fine. You don't need the federal money then. Let's dry that up. And also, if you remember, when he said, because we have that issue, right? They come in, you can only hold them so long, and so it was kind of catch release, and they have to be released because we can't hold them so long because some judge made this determination. So President Trump said, fine, we'll load up the buses, and we're going to send those buses to the Lowells, Lawrences in Boston and all these other sanctuary cities. And what was the first thing, right? Even Cher, talk about your Hollywood bubble elite, even Cher said, whoa, put the brakes on that. We can't even deal with the homeless that we have and the crime that we have. You shouldn't be doing that. So it's funny that they say, oh, no, you're going to let everybody in, just don't send them to my state.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And what happens is it exposes, the president's excellent at exposing the motives of these individuals.
I thought that was brilliant the way he did that.
No question about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and he's taking this stuff head on and dealing with real issues, making our community safer, and that's why I think with so much behind being elected, he's one of the very few that we've seen who've really hyper-focused on the people's issues, in spite of every single day these people who have political motives, not public interest motives, of trying to obstruct every single thing he's done. And in spite of it, he said, okay, fine. You're going to put a roadblock up here. I'm going to find another road to get around it. For all of us.
And that's what they got a businessman who has been, his entire life has been about getting around obstacles, right? Getting around them, getting over them, or obliterating them. And then you got a guy in the left cannot understand the love for him and his success, because he actually, you said it a second ago, he's addressing the people's concerns and issues, where the other politicians are just concerned about their concerns and issues, and they want to tell us what's best for us instead of what Trump is doing. And he's listening to the typical American citizen, and he hears what we want, and that's what he's trying to give us. Ted wanted to jump in on something with the sheriff.
I wanted to ask the good sheriff a real straightforward question. First of all, are there any sanctuary communities in your county?
There aren't any established sanctuary communities in our county, but there are sort of lenient sort of attitudes in some of the communities around people just not really looking to enforce the immigration law.
Got it. So in the future, if one of these communities comes out and, say, a mayor or a selectman says that we're going to be a sanctuary community, Why can't you arrest them and put them in that nice lockup you've got?
Well, it's interesting. It's funny you say that. Mayor Curtatone, when I was testifying before Congress, and I said, when Congressman King said, Sheriff, what should be done with these individuals that establish these sanctuary communities? I said, issue arrest warrants on every one of them. And on Fox News that night, I was doing an interview, and they had apparently contacted Mayor Curtatone, and he said, they asked him, the sheriff said he's going to thinks you should be arrested. He said, well, tell the sheriff to come get me. And what I had said was, well, I think the Mayor Curtatone is going to be very disappointed, because it isn't going to be me that's going to come get him. Yeah. It's going to be the federal law enforcement people who come get him. That's under federal law, so we can't. Believe me, if we could, I would.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's big talk for someone he knows that he's not in your jurisdiction.
Of course. Of course.
But boy, when those feds come and walk. Now, by the way, you're going to be on is it Judge Janine tonight?
Yes, I'll be on with Judge Janine tonight.
What time?
Right around 9:10.
9:10. All right, so people can tune in and check that out. We got
It's
one
on
more.
my calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to catch her on because I don't really go out Saturday night because I'm here again at 5 in the morning on Sunday, Sheriff. So 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, I'm usually watching Judge Janine or Fox or something anyway. But 508-871-7000. Gene would like to talk to the good sheriff here. Good morning, Gene. You're on with Sheriff Hodgkins.
Joe, one of the times that I'm crying, okay, because first of all, Sheriff Hodgkins, I called one day, and they gave me several numbers when I had called, but I believe that was also for a reason. I called to thank you. I hope you got a message. Gene Giro, 611 Franklin Street, Framingham, Massachusetts, okay? And Sheriff Hodgkins, I hope you got one of the messages. I talked to several people. They love you. And my heart is like so overwhelmed. And Joe, everyone, Ted, Shane, this wonderful station, the Cadburys who own it, you are on Radio Free America, Sheriff Hodgkins. And I have to thank you and thank you and thank you from the bottom of my heart, along with all of the listeners. So many people listen to this station, along with all the people and callers who are so fantastic. Sheriff Hodgkins, I want to tell you, first of all, I want to give you hope. I got saved. And I know, and I'm privy to stuff from the past, what you're saying about what they want to do with the control. They want the votes. They want that political control. You're absolutely right about that. They can kill me if they want to, Sheriff Hodgkins, but look me in the eye under the American flag. Okay? That's what I ask. Okay. I love Jesus Christ. I'm born again. There's hope for America, Sheriff. I want to give you that blessed hope. There's nobody that can't be saved. I also want to let you know that back when I was at a church that was for real, that was preaching the gospel, that did change lives through the blood of Jesus Christ, because I'm 43 years free of drinking, drug, and adultery, fornication, and smoking, Sheriff.
Yeah. Gene, but do you have a question for the sheriff?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do, Joe. Okay, and thank you, Joe, for this opportunity. Sheriff, I want to tell you that we had a couple at the church that we sponsored, and it was right, Sheriff. And it was everything that was American, for what's right for America, that protected people, that protected the police, that protected everybody for what's right for America. They were sponsored, Sheriff.
Question.
Now, this is what's happened. Why haven't they done this now, Sheriff? And my heart goes out to the fact that the people that we sponsored were protected. And who's being protected now is...
Well, I think Gene's question is that why, Sheriff? Why?
Why are they protecting the illegals?
Yeah, why? Yeah, why? Let's go with that. Why are they protecting? And what is the political motivation other than it's against Trump, therefore they're for it? What do they benefit from this?
It's really not so much against Trump as much as it is. They don't like President Trump, but because what he's done is by enforcing these laws, he's upset their political. That's what's been consistent. Yeah. They've been motivated to try to get votes and bring people in. When he said no more, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to build the wall. He basically was saying you're not going to manipulate the American people in the system anymore to try to manipulate the elections of our country.
I was just going to say, you mean election meddling? Talk about election meddling.
Well,
of course. Third world country.
That's the whole purpose behind the driver's license. Not the whole purpose, but a big part of this, right? Because I said this a week or two ago, Sheriff. I'm watching TV. You're seeing all this going on. We're going to issue these driver's license, right? The bill here in Massachusetts, it's passing the hurdles. Thank you for going against that. And then the next thing on TV, Sheriff, is Bill Galvin. Great guy, Secretary of State. What he's saying, don't forget to vote. All you need is a smartphone and your license, and you can register to vote.
Of course.
In the same TV.
This is the travesty of all this. But you know, I really believe the great thing about President Trump is, and I often refer to these Democrats who do these kinds of things that you just spoke of, that President Trump has sort of recreated the script of The Wizard of Oz, and clearly now people have seen that, you know, Toto's pulled the curtain back now. And now the American people have finally seen this has been driven by politics. This has nothing to do with serving the people. It's serving themselves. So it's a difference between self-service and public service. And these individuals who've continued to try to break down our system for their own political benefits have been involved in self-service government for decades now. And it's very, very sad.
Hey, Sheriff, remember when El Chapo, was arrested and all that went down? There was a kind of a threat thrown out there at one point that he was going to start naming all of the politicians that he's paid off and has donated to, but that got quieted real quick.
Oh, sure. And this is all unraveling. And that's why you're seeing the kind of crowd you're seeing with the president now, because people want the laws to be enforced. And the other thing is, I was listening to a gentleman who immigrated to this country legally. And he was saying, you know what? This was just last week when I was at a press conference in Maryland with sheriffs from Maryland and North Carolina and so forth, supporting the attempts for us to try to prevent them from becoming a sanctuary state. But during that press conference, this individual spoke. He said, I'm an immigrant. I came here. I paid a lot of money to come here. I did it the right way. And he said, I'm now being told that I'm going to have to pay the hard-earned money that I make to support the people who are sneaking in. And I'm being told I have to support them for housing. They have to be now given money every month and all of this. It's my money. I came here the right way, and now I'm being punished. And I encourage everybody, if you know someone that come here legally, immigrated into this country, become citizens, I would encourage you, when you have a moment, just to look them in the eye and say, I just want to thank you for respecting the laws of the United States, because you've upheld what our forefathers have given us and helped us retain what is rightfully ours. And that's to have a sovereign nation of generous people who bring in 1 million immigrants legally, more than any other country a year, over 1 million. Yeah. So we're very generous. And maybe if we didn't have this influx of probably close to 20 million now people who are here illegally, we might be able to bring in more. Yeah. But if you think about this in these terms, when they were having, say, 100,000 people coming in 1 month, right, illegally, I asked somebody, I said, New Bedford, Massachusetts is about 100,000. Remember, these were consecutive months. There were more and more coming in, 30,000, 60,000, whatever. I said, how many cities like New Bedford are sitting idle with houses, banks, grocery stores, churches, and all the infrastructure you need to run a city? Where are those 100,000 people in that 1 month going to go? There's no cities waiting to just be occupied here. We have to have immigration laws to control our growth so that we can sustain the things that make this country great. Well, we have elected officials who are going, we're going to break that down. We don't care. No. Let them in because they want votes. Yeah. It's outrageous.
It is outrageous. And I've said this over and over again, Sheriff, is, look, their organic growth in a community, everything works well. It's absorbed, right? It's naturally. Even a community, when there's a birth population, you see young families move in. Guess what? The town goes, you know what? In 10 years, we're going to have to build a high school because we're going to have 2,300 kids graduating. Everything works. If you dump this population into a community out of the blue like that, everything is taxed to death. No pun intended here. The school system, even the sewage system gets taxed. The power grid, everything, nothing, right? You drop thousands of people unexpectedly. You don't have that organic growth, and it cannot handle it. Then, and you add it on top of that those people, again, it wasn't organic, right? Their income and their taxes from their income didn't gradually come into the system either. Right? They're purchasing of goods, they're buying homes and renting apartments, and the housing demand. And then when they're doing everything that we talked about earlier, buying these identities or leasing these identities and creating crime after crime, then they're getting benefits. I know, we have a politician, a state legislator that comes on every month, and he says, yeah, but all that, we don't officially give this stuff. I understand that. We don't have a program. You don't go to transitional assistance and say, I'm illegal, sign me up for welfare and food stamps. They're doing it by committing fraud and identity theft, which if you and I did identity theft, we'd be in a lot of trouble, right? So that we know it's happening, but that it's straining the taxpayers' ability to even keep up with the taxes here.
Well, yeah, and think about this too. You know, the president's just now getting ready to announce something on sex trafficking, human trafficking, and the crackdown on that. But think about this. When you go on Facebook, you almost every single day you're seeing missing children, right?
Oh my goodness!
I was in Washington getting ready to go on the air, and one of the technicians at the studio said, "Hey, are you here on the topic of missing kids?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "All over Washington D.C., there are kids missing all the time. Nobody knows where they are, and the cartels have turned human and sex trafficking into almost as lucrative a business as they have the drug trade."
Wow!
So our kids are being abducted in our communities across this country and being brought into these trades of human trafficking and sex trafficking, sold off and whatever. And it's out of control. And I think most people probably listening, when they look at Facebook, they see it all the time. I tell people, share that with your friends and let them see it. Every time you see them, these things, share it so you can see the magnitude of the problem.
Sheriff, unfortunately, and I hate to have to say this, but we're at the end of the hour, and I got to break because what you're saying is extremely interesting, informative, and I'm sure our listeners love it, but it's just time to have to say goodbye. But I want to remind everybody that you're on with Judge Janine tonight. Please check out the High Sheriff.
Yeah, thank you, Joe, and thank you for what you're doing. Talk radio is going
to put you live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, folks.
Live.
So that was the High Sheriff, and he did thank off here, too. He went into a little bit more about thanking the station and pointing out that talk radio has really been such a savior for getting the word out and dispensing the information that we're not getting otherwise. So that was a good segment. So we're back live. So I know if you had been streaming or if you listened to yesterday's show, you're saying, wait a minute. Yeah, we played the interview with the High Sheriff again. I thought it was a great segment, and he had a lot to say. And also, by the way, because we chatted yesterday afternoon,
1 minute.
And he was going to be on Judge Janine last night at 9 o'clock, but about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they rescheduled it. So he doesn't know when he'll be on. But he'll let me know. When he lets me know, I'll let you know. And if it's, during the week or something, I'm in on Thursdays anyway. So I'll say something either on Jerry's show, Making Money Last, on Thursday or next week, or I'll just post it. I'll post it on Facebook and Twitter, our social media.
30 seconds. 30.
All right, folks, so we're going to take a break here for the news. Come back on the other side. Lines open and available, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or just email me at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com, and it appears on the same screen. All right, Jane, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. Stick with us, folks. Hey, Daytona 500 today.
Yes, it is.
All right, folks, be back on the other side of the news.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
Attack in Iraq. Coming home, but not going home. I'm Christopher Cruz. At least 4 rockets have hit near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and an Iraqi base where American troops live. No injuries reported. The rockets landed and damaged a building just before 3:30 local time this morning. This is just the latest in a series of rocket and mortar strikes on the Iraqi bases where American troops live. About 400 Americans are leaving the cruise ship Diamond Princess today. It's been sitting at the dock in Yokohama, Japan in quarantine for almost 2 weeks. Correspondent Will Ripley is in Yokohama this morning.
We now count 12 buses and 3 military vehicles lined up outside the quarantined Diamond Princess. And within the next hour, Americans are expected to get off the ship and get onto those buses. All day, they have been told to pack their belongings, to dress warm, to dress in layers, to bring water and snacks for a long and potentially uncomfortable journey ahead.
They'll be flying to military bases in the U.S. on a converted cargo plane. They've been on the ship for 12 days now. They face another 14 days in quarantine in the U.S. A university drama department bringing the tragic death of a man from Texas onto the stage. The play dramatizes the life and death of Botham Jean, who was shot and killed by now former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger.
Botham Jean's death made headlines worldwide. A former Dallas police officer convicted in his murder after she said she mistook his apartment for her own and shot him, thinking he was an intruder. Now, theater students at TCU in Fort Worth are portraying the story in a play titled For Bo.
It began as a 10-minute play. It is now a 1-hour, 1-act play and is in transition transition to being a full-length piece.
TCU professor Avon Penn hopes the production, which has already debuted, will serve as an agent for social change. Clayton Neville, Dallas.
And I'm Christopher Cruz.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertising. Sponsored by Case Legal Media. Attention. This is an important message for anyone that has been diagnosed with cancer after being exposed to Roundup or other weed killers. The Internal Agency for Research on Cancer warned that overexposure to Roundup and other weed killers may increase the risk of developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Monsanto, the manufacturer of Roundup, may have known that Roundup and other weed killers were likely linked to organ damage and cancer. This information was hidden from the public as proprietary trade secret since 1981, and Monsanto may have failed to warn of the potential risk of cancer. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with cancer after being exposed to Roundup or other weed killers, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Call us now at 800-716-0457. Our network of attorneys are ready to fight for you. You'll pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. Call now for a free consultation at 800-716-0457. You must protect your legal rights. Call 800-716-0457. Again, 800-716-0457.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Lavache, you're all set with your mortgage. And I assume you understand what you just signed.
A stack of papers, George?
That's right. And for future, just call this number if you need anything. And, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna need that pen back.
The mortgage process can be confusing. Looking for the right rate, the right term, and most importantly, the right place to get your mortgage. At Clinton Savings Bank, we are committed to getting the mortgage that's right for you. You may even receive up to a $750 credit off your closing costs. Plus, right now, you can lock in the rate from your pre-qualification for 90 days while you look for a home. So what are you waiting for? Definitely not this.
Oh boy. Hi, Mrs. Lavache, how can I help? You're breaking up. Try again later.
Subject to credit approval. Offer may be withdrawn at any time. For complete details, exclusions, and credit cost and terms, call 888-744-4272. Apply at ClintonSavings.com. NMLS number 422081. Member FDIC. Member DIF. Equal housing lender.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually...
Mark has a point about the U.S. Border Patrol being called to Boston last night, I believe it was. Said he wanted to talk about that.
6 Main Street in Douglas.
So I don't even see the calls. How many do we have?
Just one, just Mark.
Click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook.
Coming back in 10 seconds.
Tired of being tired? Get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
This is the Joe Mangicotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show. You want to know, it's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back here to hour 2 of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I am Joe Mangiacotti. Shane's flying the board today. Lines open and available at 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. I hope you enjoyed re-airing the conversation with the High Sheriff yesterday. I just thought that it was very important, not just what he had to say, but the point is that we have an administration, we have a president who has been saying from day one that we are going to bring law and order back into this, right? We've been witnessing a two-tier justice system, right? Justice has been meted out based on political lines. We're seeing this, and we'll talk about that. Now he's saying, okay, you self-proclaim sanctuary cities, that's fine. Thank you. You're gathering all of the illegal aliens up in one spot first, so we'll send and we'll give the ICE agents a little help because things have been so successful on the border, right? The wall is going up, but not only that, the president, as you heard the sheriff talking about, has negotiated and leveraged the situation with the USMCA and tariffs and trade with Mexico, that they need to do what they should have been doing the entire time, do their job. Pretty much, this administration has been consistent in telling people all over the globe, do what you should have been doing. Pay your fair share to United Nations. Pay your fair share to NATO. Pay your own protection bills. Do fair trade. Stop slapping us with a 500% tariff, and we're not supposed to have anything. What did he say from the day he came down the escalator? That countries have been taking advantage of the United States for decades, and it's going to stop. So having ICE agents, right, reinforced with Border Patrol agents and agents from any other government agency is perfectly fine. Not only perfectly fine, but it's a brilliant move. It's a brilliant move because they are going to, and as the sheriff was saying, arrest warrants. It's against the law. This isn't a debatable area, folks. It's not it's not gray. It's black and white. It's a federal law. Anybody who aids or abets a felon or an illegal immigrant, let's use a proper term. It is, well, either one is required to notify and to cooperate. It's just amazing how the left feels that that's the superior complex. When you have this ideology that you're just so right, you are absolutely right, and you're so frustrated that everyone else just is stupid and does not get it, that they must be crushed and destroyed. And why must they? Because apparently they just can't win the argument on logic and points, right? I mean, if you could, wouldn't you stand your ground and have that debate? 508-871-7000. Before I go to the phones, I just want to remind folks, today is, I said it right before we went out of the last hour, Daytona 500. Now, that's happening, and what's interesting is Trump is setting another precedence and record here. For the first time, President of the United States is the Grand Marshal. And at 2:53, the president will give the, start your engines, gentlemen thing. I don't know if they say gentlemen anymore, right? It used to be gentlemen, start your engines. They probably don't.
I believe it's just drivers now.
Drivers now, right? It's politically incorrect. Well, and there are female drivers, and they do fantastic. So, he'll do that. Excuse me, I'm a little dry. So the president will give the start your engines at 2:53, and the green flag wave is at 3:05. So the 200 laps that will equal 500 miles kicks off again at 3:05 technically is when it begins. So if you're a NASCAR fan, even if he isn't, I'm sure he's going to get a fantastic reception at NASCAR. And I don't know if this is tongue-in-cheek being, but I've seen it posted at a few different places that the Beast will make a lap. And yesterday there was an article that the president's Secret Service detail They were working with the officials at NASCAR, Daytona 500, to have the Beast. And the Beast is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's the Secret Service's name for the vehicle the president rides in, which is a very modified Cadillac. This thing is huge. It looks like a Cadillac from a distance, but if you get close to it, I mean, the tires are waist high. They're very thick. They are obviously run no air tires, right? They'll withstand bullets, and it's not going to phase them. The vehicle is completely armored. It has incredible amount of communications and technology in it. So, yeah, they start with maybe a Cadillac chassis, maybe, I don't know, and they put some insignia on it, but it's certainly nothing that you're going to be able to walk into, long Cadillac and purchase. I can tell you that. But they call it the Beast, and it is a beast. And this thing is flown. There's few of them, obviously, and when the president is going somewhere, but you don't see when the president gets on and off Air Force One is the C-130s and the carriers. That the Beast and the sedans and Secret Service vehicles are also entering that C-130. That takes off a little bit before Air Force One. It lands. Those vehicles are waiting for the president and the detail when they get there. There's backup planes. And there's also always a second Air Force One, by the way. I don't know if people realize that. They're identical planes. There's always a spare. If anything is wrong with the aircraft that the president, because Air Force One is only designated when a president of the United States is on board. All right. If I took him down to Norwood and we got into the Cherokee 180 and took off, that becomes Air Force One. That's the designation of it. So there's two of those aircraft all the time, flying right behind each other, so that if anything at all, they just get into the other one. They don't take any chances at all. Plus, it's hard to know then once you're up in the air which one the president is. It's the same reason why there are 4 Marine Ones. That whenever the president takes the helicopter from the White House to Andrews, it's always 4 helicopters come up. They all lift up out. It's a restricted airspace along the river, so you can't see which one. They're identical helicopters. If you knew it was one helicopter, how long before a terrorist organization says we just get an RPG and hit it? So anyway, enough of presidential security detail stuff. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phone. Mark was first. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I hear that Mayor Marty Walsh is having a little conniption fit, huh?
Oh, poor Marty. I'm sure Marty is this is so against his identity politics. I can't even imagine how he is taking this.
It's not his identity politics. It's his globalist politics. Marty Walsh is nothing but he's a little, I can't say it on the air.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
But a globalist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a rump swab for a globalist. That's all he is.
Yeah.
Now, what I suspect is that you're going to have the Border Patrol, you're going to have ICE agents, and I suspect highly that you also have U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force embedded with them.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if Marty Walsh decides that he's going to impede in any way, shape, or form those U.S. Marshals, he's really looking for problems for himself, i.e. being issued a cease and desist order from either the, I won't hold my breath waiting for a cease and desist order from Barr, because I don't trust the guy, but possibly the Andrew Lilly, the U.S. Attorney, Boston office. They won't put up with him.
No.
Trying to impede.
Hey, Mark,
US,
they put the bracelets on the judge, right? They had enough of that. It went too far. The marshals got the ICE officer or the ICE organization got so frustrated with that judge and what she did to this. She ordered that agent out of her courtroom, knew he was waiting there, and then left the recording on to conspire with the bailiff to put the guy out the back, where the bailiff had to use his key card to bring him through the back door and help him escape. And they put the cuffs on.
She's not in jail now, is she?
No, and she's getting her back pay.
She's getting her full pay.
Yeah. Well, I got to
So
tell you.
What kind of justice is that?
Exactly. But I got to tell you, I for Marty's sake, I hope he doesn't try to take some kind of grandstanding posture here, because he could find himself in some bracelets by our U.S. Marshal.
This is not going to stop. This is not going to stop. You can't run a red light, neither can I. Okay?
Oh, agreed.
They're running red lights and they're getting away with it. So until they stop getting away with it and they have to bear the full brunt of the law, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. It's as simple as that. Have a good one.
Agreed. Thank you, Mark. Always a great call. Agreed 100%. Mark just summed it up. Why would they stop stepping all over the law and ignoring the Constitution when it works for them, and only waving it in our faces when it works for them? Isn't that what they do? They do it with religion, too. All right, politicians constantly, when the religion works for them, my God, I talk to my God, and I do this, and I'm my faith, and then, but where is that when you're voting for late-term abortion? Where is that faith when Jill Stein is killed by somebody who should not have been in this country, not just once, but multiple times over, was deported, had criminal holds on him? That is the question everybody is asking. When are we going to stop? Because we're witnessing it, a two-tier justice system where one particular political ideology doesn't have to worry about the law. Right? We saw this in the campaign. We saw it happen through the entire hoax impeachment. Adam Schiff lied to Congress. Hillary Clinton lied to Congress. Andrew McGabe lied to Congress. James Comey lied to Congress. John Brennan lied to Congress. Peter Strzok lied to Congress. And today proves they can all get away with it. It's liberal privilege. We see it happen all the time. 508-871-7000. Richard in New Hampshire. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Joe. A couple of things. I could hardly hear the sheriff yesterday, but I heard him this morning. And I'm just saying to myself, all right, we got to break this down so that way people understand what's really going on between the sheriff and, like, say, the police. The police, they are hired by the mayor, and they work on behalf of the mayor, all right? And then after that, you have the state troopers. They're hired by the governor, and they work on the behalf of the governor, all right? The sheriff is voted in by his constituents, so he is he's in charge of taking care of his constituents and protecting them, all right? Now, what we have to understand here about the judges, all right, whether they're federal judges or whether they're state judges, all right? And the state judges, what they do is they're supposed to come in under the Constitution of Massachusetts. And that should be Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution of Massachusetts. And for the federal, it's the same thing. They come in under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution of the United States. None of these do, all right? They don't come in under Article 2, Section 2. It's called an office, Joe. You can look it up. It's an office. None of them come in through that. In other words, like, say, the governor says, all right, we're going to make you a judge, right? That doesn't work that way. You have to come in through an office. But the thing that you have to understand here, all these judges that are in the state of Massachusetts, Joe, none of them are called de jure judges. In other words, they don't have a legal office. So, in other words, if the sheriff, if he wants to turn around and arrest one of these jurists, because a jurist is someone who studies law, practices, well, in other words, like say, goes to school and stuff, writes a book on law, that's a jurist. I'm sure you probably heard that if you ever watched some Perry Masons.
Yep.
They call the judge a jurist. So the sheriff, being the highest officer in the state of his, in his county, he can actually arrest that judge. Because that judge is a jurist, is not a judge. Same thing goes for the federal judges, Joe. The only thing is, the sheriffs, they're not taught this. That's too bad. But, I'm thinking about running for sheriff here in Hillsborough County.
Really?
I know he can win. Yeah.
Why not? How big of a county is that? What county are you in?
Hillsborough.
Okay, Hillsborough.
County.
Yeah,
Because,
that's a big county. What's the population?
It's a good-sized county. And like I said, I know how I can win because I know something about 99% of the American people don't know and understand. I'm sure I talked to you about it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the judges, they are jurists. They can be arrested because none of them are de jure judges, Joe.
Yeah.
They don't come in through an official office.
Yeah.
The only Article 3 constitutional court that's left in the United States, whether it be federal or state, is the Supreme Court of the United States. Those nice guys. They have to take an actual oath of office to get in there. All these others don't. They don't have to.
Yeah.
And they don't. I just wanted to bring that up to the people who are listening here today.
Yeah.
When you go to court in Massachusetts, it's an administrative court. It's an Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, tribunal. It's not. They don't even call them courts. I'm serious, Joe. They don't even call them courts today. And if you want to find out about that, you go to Title 28. You have Statute 132 and 133 and 134. They tell us. That's how ballsy they are. They come out and tell us, hey, what we're doing is we're working for Congress. So when you go to court in Massachusetts or a federal court, you're actually going to a court that's operated by Congress.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people out there, Richard, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, yes, I do.
The other thing is, Richard, the sheriff's department up here in this area is very different than it's down in the southern states where they actually patrol the roads and things of that nature. But the sheriffs, they still hold a lot of this power. They just don't exercise it here.
Exactly.
They're pretty much the keepers of the jails here type of thing. There have been judges. I live in Worcester County now, but I lived in Middlesex County for most of my life. I was a deputy in Middlesex County, which is a huge county. Middlesex County's not just land mass, but a big population. Big county, so that covers a lot of land. But keep me posted if you're going to end up running for sheriff up there, because the
other thing I'm sure you're aware. I'm sure, Joe, you're aware about West, like Wyoming, Montana, and stuff like that. The sheriffs over there, they have power. They know they got power.
Oh well,
look at the federal government.
The LA, Los Angeles County sheriff out there.
Yeah.
The sheriff in California, those guys actually have a lot of power. You've got the Los Angeles Police Department, then you've got the LA County Sheriff's Department. And they take care of the jails, but they have a complete patrol and enforcement and detective bureau. It's huge. The LA's county sheriff's office would be equal to the Mass State Police. In essence.
But the thing you have to worry about here in Massachusetts, Joe, be on the guard, because they're trying to get rid of the sheriff's department. You're aware of that, right? They already got rid of, 2, 3 sheriff counties?
In Massachusetts? Where?
Yeah, Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah?
They're trying to get rid of them, Joe.
Well, you know what?
Keep an eye on them.
Look, at people, for years, the county government was where a lot of political hacks were tucked away, right? You had county commissioners. And you had all these just jobs that they could put these people on, and after a while people, I remember 20, 30 years ago talking about this on the radio. Why are we all this money every time you're paying your taxes in your community, or you buy a dog license or anything, right? Some of that money is going to the county budget. And people are saying, what is this layer? Why do we have this other layer? Now, one thing is because it's not visible. It's not like you're walking down the street or driving down the street and you see, the local police car go by and you maybe see a trooper if you're near 190 or the Pike or something like that. And then you see, a sheriff's patrol car. You'll see a sheriff's car, right? But what is it? It's a van going from the courthouse up to West Boylston, or it's Billerica to the courthouse, or depending what county you're in, right? Bristol, etc. You don't see, the sheriff's department with detectives and investigators and patrol officers. So everybody says, why are we spending all this money on a sheriff's office and county government? Can't that just happen? And look, I've always said when you get out to the western part of the state, why not use? Usually they use the state police to patrol because there are towns with no police department or one officer.
Exactly. Even in New Hampshire we have that.
Yeah. And so why, they say, well, the state police. Well, why not make it a regional? Let the county sheriff's office become the patrolling agent and work the dispatch for the county. It's not like the old days, the technology. Doesn't matter the distance, right? Today with the communications, it's all digital. It's all on repeaters. Doesn't matter how far you are. You can have one dispatch handle all of Berkshire County.
All right.
It's all possible.
I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, got to run.
I'm sure you must have some other callers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Richard. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lieutenant Ken, good morning. We got a couple minutes, but that's okay if we need to hold over. How are you, sir?
Morning, Colonel Joe. Lieutenant Ken reporting. Just a quick, with a few minutes remaining, and if hold over, but I thought I'd comment about all those people you described who've gotten away with lying. The only problem was none of them were Roger Stone.
None of them were Roger Stone. And I'm not trying to pretend that Roger Stone is some kind of saint or something. Okay?
Oh, no.
He's always been a shady guy. However, it's a bigger issue, people. It's not about whether Roger Stone. It's about the fact that the law is not equally applied. It's not. It's the fact that we have to put the blindfold back on Lady Justice. Right? So you got Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton. I was going to run through the names.
Amy Berman Jackson?
No, I don't think so.
Oh man, is she corrupt?
So,
whoa! Do some research, folks.
Okay, the Roger Stone thing was so ridiculous, and it has to do again. Okay, it has to do with and what they got him on. It has nothing to do with his short little time on the president's campaign. They targeted all the people around him, right? That's what they did. Now, the same people, right? McGabe, look at what happened to McGabe. They're not going to go forward with McGabe, yet he admitted that he lied. He leaked, lied about it, then lied about the leaking and lying about it, and he's guilty. He has the gall to get on TV the other day and talk about, well, what they put me and my family through for 2 years. What did they put? What did they put the president's family through for much longer than that, right? And McGabe, it's not a question, right? You also got Flynn and Manafort and all these, and Flynn was set up. That was a setup, and I hope he gets a new trial. And then they got on the president for making a comment about Stone. People, the president can actually pardon these people at any time. He just hasn't done that yet. But if and when he does it, Ken, the liberals' heads are going to implode. Hey, you're welcome to hold on or call back, but we do got to take a break here, folks. Quick. Sure. It's time now for Case Files from the LPDAM, a new feature that we have going on here. So let's check in with Sean Burke, as president of the Licensed Private Detective Association of Massachusetts. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at lessons from actual cases, the law behind the findings, and where we share the experience of experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. Joining us this week is Sean Burke, current president of LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Investigations. Good morning, Sean. Let's talk about the association in itself. When was this actually created, and what was the purpose of putting together a Private Detectives Association?
As with most industries, there's a prime group that handles, a lot of legislative issues, works with the licensing agency. When in 1991, the Licensed Private Detectives Association was formed to do exactly that. It has been exactly what it has done in the respect that we've worked on many things from legislative, informing the public, educating private investigators to be better at their skill set. There is approximately 800 licenses, and that's a small number for any industry when you think of that there's approximately 44,000 lawyers. You have to have 3 years experience to be able to have that opportunity. The state police on a yearly basis actually do an investigation into each renewal form. Each investigator has to go through that once a year, which puts us at a very high standard. And unlike other licenses that's done through the Secretary of State, this is actually a legislative license. That's the oversight is with the Massachusetts State Police.
And that's something I think that people have to realize, that when you engage in the services of a private investigator, this is a person who's been vetted by the state police at least within the last year. If somebody needs a private investigator, they should be looking for those two things: that they have a current license and signed off by the state police, and second, I would think that the membership in LPDAM would also tell you that this is probably somebody you should deal with.
Yes, on our website we actually have the list of investigators that are associated with us, which we have our own set of standards. Those investigators or members do live up to those standards with their clients.
Now, like a lot of industries, right, a lot of professions, there are specialties, right? I mean, a doctor is a doctor, sure. They're all doctors. However, you're not going to go see an ear, nose, throat guy if you're having a back problem, or you're not going to see a cardiologist if you don't see very well. So there's those specialties. Does this happen within the PI industry?
It does.
Is it prudent for a person to use a PI that specializes in their need, or is it okay to go to a general practitioner?
I actually think that you'd be smarter, just like with most industries, to find the business that is a little bit more in line with what you're requesting. For example, if you're looking for a surveillance, you would be best to use a surveillance company that's licensed to do that. Obviously, you need a private investigative license from Massachusetts. So we're a non-reciprocal state. So you cannot hire a New York company, for example, to work in Massachusetts. It has to be a licensed private investigator in Massachusetts.
And there's a lot of conversation that we can have about that. Today, Sean, the internet has opened up the ability for people to do a lot of work on their own, research type work, but it also has created a lot of companies, which I've always argued that they should need a license to do a lot of what they're doing online. But we do have companies that offer these background investigations for $19.99.
Well, Joe, they do, and it would be important for your listeners to hear this very clearly. For $19.99, you really cannot get a proper service done. And a lot of that information is not accurate, and it's unfair to push that information along when it's not accurate about an individual. And that's one of the problems with the internet, where a licensed private investigator is held to a high standard and their information can be checked or cross-referenced. Although it may be more expensive, but it's the same thing as putting a Band-Aid on. You're not going to see a doctor or going to represent yourself in a small claims and not utilizing a lawyer. The truth of the matter is those forums are different. When you want to get something done and you need facts, a licensed private investigator has the ability to get those facts for you.
Tell people where they can check out LPDAM website.
Yeah, they can go to lpdam.org and you can look up Find an Investigator. It's right on the banner, and I think that's the best way to ensure that you're hiring somebody that has integrity and that is vetted by the Massachusetts State Police.
Sean, thanks for coming in this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week on WCRN 8:30 a.m. and online anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com. Visit us at lpdam.org. You can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PINMass, and anytime 800-955-6274. For Sean, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and the phone number to join the conversation here in the Clinton Savings Bank studios, 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 as we broadcast from our palatial but not overly ostentatious studios, the Clinton Savings Bank studios in Westborough, Massachusetts. Our text line is also open and available. Very simple. Text like you would anybody else at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or you can email us at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com, and it accomplishes the same thing. Daytona 500, that happens this afternoon, flag waving by President Donald J. Trump at 3:05, first president to be named the Grand Marshal. So I'm definitely going to tune in, Shane, because I want to see the beast driving around the track with a big 45, like the NASCAR cars do, right? That would be pretty cool. So, again, let me get this straight. Andrew McGabe goes into the White House, sets up a perjury trap, and entraps Michael Flynn. General Flynn is then faced with the prospect of jail time. They even threatened his son. But when McGabe admits to lying, he gets off. If Flynn should be pardoned and McGabe should be charged. I don't know. Lieutenant Ken is on the phone with us, so let's come back in the conversation, Ken.
Yes, Joe. Following up, I'd like to reference you and your listeners to Aviva Fry. He's a lawyer out of Canada, has a YouTube video blog. He calls a vlog, VLAWG. And he recently hosted Robert Barnes, who apparently is a very famous lawyer. I don't know if you've heard him before, but watch that video, and he goes through the whole list of the atrocities of how Roger Stone was framed. And it's like, are we living in the United States with all this? Are you kidding me?
Oh, they told him straight out, if you say this, you'll see no jail time. And if you plead guilty, we'll leave your son alone. I mean...
Well, you're talking about Flynn.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's
I'm
another
sorry.
case.
Were we talking
I'm speaking to the just recent news about Stone.
Oh, Stone. Yeah, well, I mean, Stone, too. The techniques that they were using. I mean, this goes back, and I'm not condemning the entire Federal Bureau of Investigation, but you can see what happens when you have years and years of, the incestuous clique there that gets in there of this mindset, and they get this sense of entitlement and that. How dare the president try to run the country without our permission? I mean, that's even from a line from some movie about CIA and Cold War. I think it's not De Niro, who's a woo-ha. You know him, Chicka, the actor. He's in that CIA movie. Woo-ha. Why am I... Shane, do you know what I'm talking about? Well, the actor. You'll know it when it comes to me, not De Niro, but the other guy. Anyway, that's the point. And we saw this with Stroke and Page, right? This going on, but they were speaking again. Remember, folks, right? These people, they were so arrogant and so confident that what they were doing that was right, ignoring the Constitution, stamping on people's civil rights and liberties, breaking the law, altering 302s, lying to the court for the Pfizer applications. Everything that took place was just totally okay. It was justified for the greater good, for the end result. Didn't matter. Yet all those things are in place to stop people like that from inflicting and imposing their views and ideology onto us. But they really believe that if you don't agree with them, that you don't just need to be debated, Ken, you need to be destroyed. You have to be silenced. This is crazy.
They view themselves as beyond the law because they know if they were to go to a trial in the D.C., they would never be prosecuted.
They'd never see the inside of a jail.
Look at what the foreman did at the Stone case.
Yes.
Did you catch all the story there? And here's another person to follow. Mike Cernovich did a terrific job of busting her.
Good.
The bottom line is the scoundrels can't hide in today's day and age.
But let's tell listeners, Ken, who might not understand that, the foreman in that case claims she didn't know him at all. And then upon taking a look at it, right, you find out her social media is loaded with references to Stone.
She ran for Congress in Tennessee.
Yeah, that she was a candidate. Right, exactly. So, and on his jury, there wasn't one Republican, by the way. The breakdown of the jury, there were Democrats, they were independents, but no Republicans. There were people who worked for the FBI.
95% Democrat.
Yeah.
So where you hold it, the guy lives in Florida, and they move it to D.C. Everything was crooked about this. Everything.
Yeah. And it's good that, and this is what I'm saying, light has been shown on this, and if it's not fixed, and I don't want it fixed by the president pardoning, even though that's what the pardon is there for. The pardon has been put into the Constitution, has been granted to the office of the presidency, and I'm saying that specifically that way, folks, because when you say Trump, people get, no, it doesn't matter. Trump is just a placeholder. Do you understand that the President of the United States is literally a placeholder? They temporarily sit in that seat. We're talking about the presidency and the powers of the presidency. And that power of pardon was given to the presidency for gross injustices like this, for circumstances where the system failed, that there was a safety net there. But I don't want to see President Trump pardon him. If it has to happen, I want to see it happen. But I want the system to work it out. The people who lied, people who altered documents, people who broke the norms, who orchestrated this, get caught in that. Evidence is thrown out, testimony is thrown out in either the trial. The judge.
Take the judge off the.
But there's a term for when the judge vacates it. Right, he's going to vacate it. This is what I want to. I want to see the system work so that the confidence of the judicial system, the justice system, is restored in the American people. Because right now, Ken, I don't think anybody outside of the Democratic bubble is confident in our justice system right now. I'm not.
And you know,
I look what's going on.
Did you know that?
The foreman is a lawyer. That one I didn't know.
Foreman's a lawyer.
But see,
he should be disbarred.
Every layer that you peel off on this Roger Stone thing is just how horrible. This is stuff that we're usually going into other countries to help stop. Corrupt justice systems, right? Stacked legal systems. Everything. And it's as if the Democrats, or the left, and I've said it before, and I don't want to sound like I don't impugn the reputation of all Democrats when I say that, because there are conservative Democrats, there are common sense, Democrats out there. I'm talking about the loony left, the extremists, just like the right has it too. I'm talking about those people. They just can't win on the common sense in the argument because the points of law don't work for them, so they change the rules constantly. We saw them change the rules constantly in the Democratic primary process so that how they wanted it to come out, it comes out that way. And even when it doesn't, they just change another rule and make it happen, right? The superdelegates or what have you. They want to keep stacking the deck, and they want to do that now. And that's what immigration is about, right? Stacking the deck, because they pump in illegal immigrants. Then, now we've got the census coming up, Ken, right? And what do they want to do is they want to make sure that illegals in this country are counted in the census, because that determines where the congressional people are, how Congress is divided up. And if you've got 20, 30,000 in this city and 20, 30,000 in this congressional city, in this congressional district, right, the population shifts and the rural red areas lose a congressperson, and the New Yorks and Californias pick them up. Now they're stacking the deck with more like-minded loony left in Congress, as well as dividing the money. And they're not constituents. By law, they're not, right? What's the definition of a constituent? Somebody who has the ability to vote for you when they become of legal age, or they're the minors of people who can vote for you. The constituents are citizens. Remember when AOC said that about a good number of her constituents aren't legal? How many things wrong with that statement?
But
right?
Here's the interesting thing, Joe. You were just talking about the census, and it hit me like their vision is that they're going to win these battles, when in fact the left is losing almost all of them. So what do you think the consequences of the census are going to be? Even if the census count is off, what matters is the congressional districts that will be set up.
That's what it's all about, Ken.
And what do you think is going to happen in the 2020 election? They're going to get destroyed. So that's going to set up the next 10 years as far as congressionally, because they're not going to have the levers of power.
Mm-hmm. And it comes back to, we got into gerrymandering yesterday a little bit. And I've been a proponent of doing, because we can do it. We have the technology. That we take that, and we have computers, and IA do this for everything else in our business and in our politics in our world. I never want to see AI or computers brought into voting. I know that's the end of a fair and equitable process the moment we do that. Keep it to paper ballots. It's got to be kept. You go in, you hit the chit, you check the box, color it in, whatever. Do not go. But when it comes to determining congressional districts, take the gerrymandering out of it. Right now, right? You can look at all kinds of software already has the data in there, right? Because part of my firm deals with construction companies and these guys. There's all kinds of You can punch up. I can tell you the square foot of your roof by a satellite photo in a minute. So we know where populations are. Let the computers, all we got to tell the computer is we need X number of people in 365 congressional districts, and the computer will, here's your district. And it's done totally on cutting out chunks that are equal size or equal population, maybe not size graphically, but size population. And it's not going to have this weird, look at James McGovern in Worcester. The guy has never changed his seat, but the shape of his seat keeps changing. Even his wife joked with him that if you're congressman long enough, you'll end up representing every town in the state at some point, and it keeps changing on the gerrymandering to make sure that the incumbent get in. And I get back to that the power of the incumbency has grown so ridiculously strong that we have got to, and we're going to probably have to do this through the process of our own, not counting Congress to cut their own throats, but we have to impose term limits on Congress as well, both chambers.
But on these two issues you just brought up, first, Paul, the last one, the term limits, you can only do that for one way.
Ratified by the states. Yeah.
No, you do the Constitution, not the convention, but Convention of the States. That's the only method. And if Trump were to figure that out after being elected and really push that, then he's leaving a real legacy.
Yeah, because there's already, isn't there already, I believe there's already a group and it all set up and doing
Oh, absolutely.
that. Yeah,
I sent you the information.
Yeah, I was reading something. Yeah,
they keep hitting me because I went to a meeting a year and a half or so ago. They keep hitting me up to become an area leader, but I just don't have the time. But getting back to the gerrymandering, that's a whole entirely a state issue. That's how it's laid out by the Constitution. So the Fed should have nothing to do with that. Each state will determine themselves. Right. And you have a great idea and just push it in Massachusetts, and others should push it more, whatever ideas they have in their state.
But it should be done by a computer or blindly done. It should not be done by politicians that draw these incredible, ridiculous voting lines, that this side of the street is this district and that. And I saw in my state Senate race back in 92, all right, it was 7 cities and towns. Framingham was a town, then. We know it just became a city recently. But it was a town, and it was 50% of the district. Natick was the second largest part, and then it was made up of Ashland, Hopkinton, Franklin, Medway, small towns. And for years, it was the Framingham person, right? And what Mignani, when I announced, it was against a guy named Burke who had been there for 22 years. And he had won the seat at 26 years old, too, the same age I was going to be if I had won. And he stepped down, like he said he's not going to seek re-election just after I had announced. The Globe did a big thing. So it became an open seat. It became a 9-way primary on the Democratic side. And then the guy who was the state rep, Mignani, decides, similar to Mangiacotti, imagine all those yard signs, Ken, right? So
Everybody's confused.
Yeah, they were confused. So he was an 8-year, 4-term state rep. And that name recognition, and people were confused. Mangiacotti, Mignani, we had different colors, but the names were the same. Well, the thing is, the election, so Natick comes in, I take Natick, and I'm taking Hopkinton and all these towns, and Governor Weld at the time, Governor Weld had already called to congratulate, and the Globe's first edition had me winning, but then Framingham came in, which was over 50% of that district. And, of course, Mignani took it.
Hometown.
So, yeah, exactly. Shifty Shit's hometown, right? So Mignani takes it, and what do you know what the next thing they did in redistricting is they cut Natick up. They were going to make sure that nobody from Natick, which was the next biggest town in that district, for that seat, was ever going to challenge the Framingham incumbent again. So they put a few of the precincts over to Cheryl Jake's district in the Wellesley area and took it away from that seat and cut Natick up. So it happens, and they do it for those reasons. And I mean, I saw it happen in the race I ran for, connected to me, and they wanted to make sure that a kid like myself coming out of Natick was never going to be able to topple a Framingham person.
Joe, is there a minimum age for state rep or Senate?
If it is, it's 18. It's not like I know it's
the
not,
voting age.
Yeah, I think it's the voting age. But honestly, I don't even know if that's even part of it. But it is.
It probably isn't.
Probably isn't. I mean, we had a female member of Congress before women had the right to vote. Right? It was 1918 that was it ours. I can't remember the state. Her husband was the congressman, and the way the state did it is they always appointed the person to run it out. They appointed the wife to fill out his congressional term. So we had a female. Yeah, he died. So we had a female in Congress in 1918, and women weren't given the right to vote until the next year. And by the way, that's another thing, right? We just had a 100-year anniversary in 2019 of suffrage, of women having the right to vote. That really wasn't made a big deal about. Notice that?
Well, I guess they're a little embarrassed with what happened to Hillary.
Yeah. Well, it would have been interesting, right? I mean, this is the women are given the right to vote, and they haven't had a woman president yet. And look at when the first one that they put up seriously from a major party, they just picked the worst candidate, folks. Can't you understand? That has nothing to do with being a woman. She was just a bad candidate.
Did you catch
she was
the latest
a piss-poor campaigner too. Did I catch what on Bloomberg?
The latest Bloomberg rumor.
The girlfriend one, or
no, Bloomberg's considering Hillary.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at talk about what are you for self-preservation, mini Mike? I mean, are you kidding me? Because if you did and you won, you better take a few trips on Air Force One, right? Check it all out, and then have a healthy, right? Resign, because you don't want Arkansas coming your way here, man. I mean, that's crazy. Really, you're going to put your heartbeat between the Oval Office and Hillary Clinton? Seriously, no. That's he. And Bloomberg. Have you noticed he's been running the general election game? Like he's almost like this whole primary thing is beneath him. He just is going to spend his way through. And it's working because he's rising in the polls without debating, right? Without any, he's just right. He's spending, his staff are being paid a ridiculous amount of money. It's a great gig for these campaign workers. They're being paid 2 to 3 times the normal amount that campaign workers paid. They got free cell phones and iPads, 3 catered meals a day, by the way. Did you know this? He caters the breakfast, lunch, and dinner at his campaign headquarters and offices. I mean, he's spending the money. It's a great gig if you have it. And he doesn't even want to bother with it. He truly is going to buy as close to the primaries as he can.
No. Joe, like everything else, it's going to blow up in his face because that's setting up Bernie.
Of course it is. Absolutely. Because it's going to come down. Totally, and I've said this, folks, because what's good, Bernie bros are not going to jump on board with the billionaire that stole and bought the primary election out, or tried to out from under their socialist candidate. So they're going to do the same thing they did in 2016, and that's either not vote or go vote for Trump to send that message. I got one more call, Ken, so let me move on and grab that. Thank you for the call. Always a great call. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Gene, we can get you in before the end of today's edition of the TJM Show.
And Joe,
yes.
I thank you for that. What a wonderful, wonderful. Joe, yesterday was like a gift.
With the good sheriff?
Oh, it was a gift, Joe.
He was very good. And I hope you heard that I said that his... he called yesterday afternoon. We chatted, and he said, hey, I just got the word. I'm getting rescheduled for Judge Janine. So he wasn't on last night, but he will let me know. Do you follow my show on Twitter or Facebook or anything?
I don't have all those gizmos, Joe, but,
right.
You know, you can let me know.
Yeah.
You have my telephone number.
And what I'll do is I'll let Jerry know. He'll say something during his show, and I'm on his show Thursdays anyway. So if he gets rescheduled before I'm on again, I'll have Jerry say something during his show, too.
Well, she's phenomenal. You know, here's another woman who is absolutely right on, taking stands that nobody else will take, saying the truth. They want to kill her. I mean, that's how you know. That's really how you know that you hit the nail on the head. When they want to do you in, shut you up, silence you, intimidate you. Joe,
who are you talking about? I just jumped in.
35 seconds.
Oh, Judge Janine. Yeah.
Threatened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they go after her. But, Gene, we're actually coming up to the end of today's show. So are you going to watch the president on Daytona 500 today?
Well, I think we should, don't you?
I think we should, because I got to tell you something. It's history being made, folks. It's the first time a president of the United States is Grand Marshal of the Indy 500. So, anyway, enjoy that. 3:05. He tells them to start their engines at 2:53. But that wraps it up for this weekend. I'll be back on Thursday to sit in for Political Commentary Day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester. WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
The following is a paid...
Back to the U.S., but not back home. Rocket attacks on U.S. troops. I'm Christopher Cruz. The 400 or so Americans on the quarantined Diamond Princess cruise ship off the coast of Japan are leaving the ship shortly and returning to the U.S. But correspondent Matt Rivers, who's in Yokohama this morning, says they will not be going home just yet.
They will get on the plane and fly to the...
guests, and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
Welcome to About the Valley on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN. Now, here's your host, Harry Berkowitz.
Welcome to About the Valley, and we're going to talk to the Animal Control Officer, Dan Chauvin, from Northbridge, because I felt that this has been a very unusual winter in New England.